Doug, what have you seen at this conference that's of particular interest so far?
I know that it seems rather subdued this year. Last year it did come on the heels of a major announcement by NASA changing the way that space was being done with an emphasis on commercial crew and commercial ventures. And so the fight was on last year. People were pretty excited. And this year the fight seems to have just dragged on for another year. And we're sitting here uncertain about how much NASA is going to get, when it's going to be able to award some contracts, whether the government's going to shut down in 4 years, or in 4 hours from now. So it's very subdued this year.
There are any particular technology announcements, or?
It's been rather quiet actually this time around. There's some interesting announcements about different propulsion technologies and fuel, but nothing that's really stood out. I think the interesting thing about the conference was Gwen Shotwell's appearance yesterday. She's president of SpaceX, and she was great. Came in, answered all the questions we had, and was very open about what's going on with that.
You're going to be on a panel tomorrow. What are you going to be talking about?
We're going to be the panel's basically with myself and Clark Lindsay and Jeff Faust. We're also two writers and analysts, and we're going to be talking about Yuri Gagarin, the 50th anniversary of that, the 10th anniversary of Dennis Tito's flight, which was the first space tourism flight, and where we're going to be in the next 10 years or so. So we're going to be kind of going through the different eras we've had in space and looking forward to what could happen if all of these things pan out, if the commercial suborbital happens, if you start getting Bigelow space stations in orbit and the crew area and commercial area explodes, and we'll be talking about that tomorrow. Well, I've been talking to Jeff Faust about this, and also Clark Lindsay, and Jeff's theory is that we've been basically under a Cold War mentality for the last 50 years. And so everything was kind of government focused, and we're kind of coming out of that with the commercial crew right now. So the government was very top heavy. It was command down. We design everything. We do things. And now it's beginning to shift to a commercial focus. And there'll be a more interesting space program, much more innovative, probably more risk-taking in the future. And the interesting thing for me is the question of, if the commercial crew gets going and you get a really commercial market in space, what does that do to where space is being conducted? So I see in 5 or 10 years, maybe in a decade, a company or a country will be able to purchase their own space program. They'll be able to lease it from Xcor or from Virgin Galactic, maybe own their own vehicles for suborbital. They'll be able to send their people up on private vehicles to private space stations, and that'll really change things. It shifts away from a large country putting billions into their own infrastructure and their own programs and their own technologies to something where anybody can kind of do that. So it's kind of a bit of a democratization of space. And you may see space beginning to shift to other places such as the Middle East, which has a lot of money available for these types of ventures. There's interest, there's money. There's money particularly for infrastructure projects, which is what space is. And you may also see shifting to rising powers such as Brazil. China has a lot of money to spend on these types of things. India is growing. And so you'd be able to do suborbital space from almost anywhere and be able to purchase it from commercial providers. So you could see a real explosion in space. Now, there's a lot of obstacles to get there. These are the obstacles we're kind of facing today and in the future. So I say 10 years, but I don't want to be tied to that, because that'll come back and haunt me in 10 years. And people will be sitting there saying, you said 10 years ago this would happen. I'm not going to put a timetable on that, but if things develop the way they'd like them to develop, those types of things can happen.